Welcome back to another video in the series of breaking down this R1200 GS. In this video, I'm going to take off this aftermarket windshield by GIVI or GIVI. You can see there's a Torx T25 driver. I figure at this point you can take apart about half of this motorcycle with a T25 driver. Stock windshield will only have these two bolts on it. They're very small. There's a rubber grommet that goes through the windshield that is handy to hang on to. Most of the time when you buy an aftermarket windshield, it doesn't come with fresh grommets. So if you don't have the old ones, you have to get them from BMW. And then there's a threaded insert that goes through the back. So you want to hang on to all three of those pieces: the screw, the grommet, and the insert. The rest of the windshield is held up by the two adjustable side connectors. This windshield is broken because this bike was wrecked. And then on this particular aftermarket windshield, there's two support arms that go up because this windshield is so much taller than the stock windshield. I never rode with this windshield, so I don't have any impressions of it. I just know that it's taller and it's got this kind of two-piece sliding mechanism. This is one of the easiest things you can do on a GS motorcycle is swap the windshield. And windshields can get a little expensive if you don't find the one that you really like. You end up kind of going back and forth on them, and that can get a little costly. But the person who sold this bike to me wrecked it and then sold it to me. He liked this windshield a lot. He said it gave him really great protection at high speed on the highway. You can see it's been well used. It's damaged from not just from the crash, but from UV exposure. So it's kind of fogged up here and there. So here comes one of the. Did I get that arm all the way off there? Yeah, it took a real good shot to the front end on the one side. Looking at the video, it's the left side. If you're in the seat, it would be the right side of the bike. You see all the little yellow pieces of tape. That's where the adjuster identified damage on the motorcycle. But those side adjusting brackets were just monstrously tight for some reason. You can see I got a little can there, an old peanut can that I'm using to keep all the parts in. That's a handy thing to have anytime you're working on a bike. You want to. Now I'm not putting it back together. I'm putting everything in bags and setting it aside to see what might be able to be sold at some future date. Obviously, the windshield being broken, that's not one of those things that can get sold. But it helps you keep track of everything. If you're working on the bike to put it back together, then you've got everything in one place. So you know that if you have leftover fasteners that you missed something. But if you're doing like what I'm doing and putting everything in bags and cataloging it and setting it on the shelves to help customers in the future, then you've got everything in one place. And one of the things that I like to do, which you'll see me do later, is put all the fasteners and various hardware pieces that go along with some thing, whatever it is, into a bag and then tape the bag to that thing. Wow, that was really brutal, tough to get off. The crash must have really damaged it or bent it. It's been a while since I worked on this bike, so I don't remember exactly what was going on at the time. This is one of the many little tasks that that go along with breaking down a bike into its component parts. It's not exciting, it's not glamorous, but it does have to get done. And keeping all the parts together is really kind of the important thing. This is a piece of electronics I don't remember now what it is. I'd have to go back and look at it. That was secured to one of the windshield mounts with zip ties. This is a pretty ingenious mechanism I wanted to show you here on the windshield. It's got these two flip levers that allow you to adjust the height of the windshield. That's that second piece of it. But since the bottom half of the windshield is busted, it's worthless. So that's going to go in the trash. But I wanted to save the top half in case anybody comes in. So it's just a 10 millimeter, I think, 10 or 12 millimeter nut on there, and a couple of screws on the fastener on the inside that secures it, and you can flip those two levers up and adjust it. And just on the off chance that somebody ever walks in the front door and has has this exact windshield and a busted adjustment mechanism, then I'll have that in a bag somewhere sitting on a shelf in the shop. So yeah, just the one bolt that has the flip adjuster on the other side of it and two Phillips head screws. So if you're going to adapt it to another windshield, you'd have to make some very precise holes in your existing windshield. And then here I'm just putting the mechanism back together so all the pieces stay where they're supposed to be. This is a good practice to get into when you're taking stuff apart, because you never know when you might misplace a screw, drop a screw, a nut, a bolt, whatever. If you always put things back together as you're storing them, then you always have all the parts together. Excuse me. You can see in the background there on the right, there's another R1200 GS. That bike actually got some donor parts from the parts bike. It just happened to be that, some of the stuff that he needed, like a throttle body, were the same model as this bike. I think the bike in the back is a 2006 or 2007, but it was made before the change to the next iteration of the GS. So the parts fit. You always want to make sure you look up the parts to see if they're the same part number. There's a lot of different resources out there you can use to do that, various websites where you can look up the parts fiche. It helps you also get familiar with all the different components of the motorcycle. So I'm just dropping that stuff in the bag, getting ready to tape it to the windshield piece. It's always handy. I always keep a couple of boxes of these Ziploc bags around, or zip top bags. I may not have the Ziploc brand specifically. And I know this seems like a little bit of a long video for taking the windshield off, but it's really about kind of establishing your practices. If you do things in a deliberate way on the simple aspects of a motorcycle, like the windshield or the side panels for the next video, then when you start working on critical components like engines or transmissions, then you've established the practices and you're less likely to make mistakes and lose parts. Take it easy. Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll see you in the next video.